What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the HEZ Project. I'm John Rodelaza, and today we're gonna try to do a little bit of a chill video. Today we're talking about the HEZ best and worst of 2021. Now, I haven't seen a whole lot of new movies, nor have I reviewed a whole lot. If you guys have been following my channel since the beginning of the year, I reviewed maybe 23 new films of the year, so it'd really be slim pickings if I made a whole top 10 best and a top 10 worst. I'm just going to tell you the ones that I loved, whatever number that is, and the ones that were kind of disappointing and maybe I just really despised, like The Kingsman. I guess we can kick it off with some video games, and it'll just be more of a conversation, you know? I know the Guardians of the Galaxy video game came out, and all the trailers and everything I was hearing about it going into the game, I wasn't super hyped about it. Just something about the vibe of it and the fact that you can only play as Star-Lord. I don't know, I just wasn't on board with it. I like the idea of playing as different Guardians in that game, but they wanted to go a different route. They wanted to focus the game fully on Star-Lord, and you can control your teammates. It's an interesting concept, and I've been playing a little bit of it. I haven't really gone any far into it, so that's why there's no review. That's why there's no gameplay videos. I'm still working out the kinks of how I want to go about doing gameplay videos, because that's still an idea that I would like to do in the future. Speaking of gameplay videos, I did actually film one. I filmed one months ago, about 3-ish weeks after Resident Evil 8 Village dropped. And I was like, oh, I want to play it. I've never played Resident Evil before. I am brand new. I'm fresh to Resident Evil. So I bought the game, thought it'd be a fun little series to do, and it turns out when I filmed for the first 30 minutes, I didn't save the clip on the PlayStation. I just had dumb footage of me looking at a screen, smashing my fingers on a controller. Like, there was no footage. I forgot to save. You're supposed to save before you close application, and I didn't do that. So that video and the entire series was completely scrapped after that because I was so discouraged. And besides those two games, there wasn't really anything else that I bought. Besides the Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl, it's fun. It's not as good in terms of gameplay to Smash Bros, but I just think the roster doesn't live up to the potential that it could be at. So, like, I'm thinking like deep into the lore of Fairly Odd Parents and Jimmy Neutron. Bring in the Crimson Chin, bring in Jorgen von Strangle, whatever the freak his name is. Like, those are the characters that should be in a game like this, but instead we got Patrick. Like, I mean, I'm cool. Patrick should be in the game, but there's other characters I can't think off the top of my head. There's other characters that just shouldn't be in there. Moving along to TV shows, now this was a very juicy year for TV for me. I loved getting into Invincible. I heard a lot of good chatter around it. I missed the first week when they dropped the first 3 episodes, and then I think it was like episode 4 dropped, and that's when I was like, oh, I should probably get into this. This might be entertaining. And I got hooked immediately, dude. The animation is really good. It's similar to the DC animated films. I'm not super into those either, but I liked how everything looked in this show. And the story is what really hooked me, dude. That relationship between Mark and his father, Nolan, man, dude, that just gives me chills thinking about it. I still have to go back and rewatch that season, and I'm praying that we get a season 2 in 2022. I'm not entirely sure about that. This was the year of Marvel, Disney Plus MCU shows. The first time Marvel Studios made their own television series. WandaVision, then we got Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, and now Hawkeye. It's mixed towards the end of that, honestly. I personally fell in love with WandaVision. I love the sitcom format, and I love the story of Wanda and Vision, their love persevering, and that line, oh, what is grief without love persevering, dude? I mean, come on. But I really loved that show. That's probably my favorite out of all of them. Falcon and Winter Soldier had some potential. I do think it was cut short. Like, that was the first show that really felt that 6 episodes wasn't gonna be enough. I think it should stretch to 8 because they've been introducing a lot in those 6-episode seasons, and doesn't really feel super fulfilled during that finale. Not everything feels like it's tied together and feels like it's finished and completed by that 6th episode. I didn't feel that way so much with Loki, and I know I didn't review Loki. That was around the time where I dipped off the channel for a little bit just to take a break. I reviewed the 1st episode. You can go check that video out if you like. I ended up really enjoying Loki. It's a more somber show than WandaVision. It's not very wacky and crazy like that, though they do get into some multiverse stuff. Like there's this void place where everyone gets pruned, transports to this area, and Loki gets pruned in like episode 4 or 5, and he meets other Loki variants. Like there's one played by was it Richard E. Grant? I think that's his name. He's got the comic book accurate Loki costume, and it looks insane. There's a gator Loki, a little child Loki. It was a pretty fun show. I'm not gonna lie, I really had fun with it. What if, now I was going to do a season review of it. I wasn't really down with episode by episodes because personally there's a lot of what if scenarios that in my opinion didn't live up to the hype and expectation that they were setting up. That I was under the impression that they were gonna go a little above and beyond to change some events that happened in MCU timeline, but you know, insert a character here, like when they brought Killmonger in to the first Iron Man and he saved Tony in the attack in Afghanistan or something. I was expecting that episode to go somewhere else, but in my opinion, it kind of just played out the same way as Iron Man did almost. Only Iron Man, it's the little differences, like Iron Man dies and Killmonger still ends up being a similar bad guy like he does in Black Panther. It just happens years earlier. So that was kind of underwhelming. And then Hawkeye, I just reviewed the episode, so you can go check those videos out if you'd like. I thought it was a lot of fun, but at the end of the day, it's pretty lackluster, and I wasn't a huge fan of what they did with Kingpin at the end. Spoilers, I'm sorry. Yeah, Kingpin's there. The internet probably did it for you already. Oh God, remember when I reviewed Jupiter's Legacy? that was interesting. So, fun story. I don't know if I mentioned this in my review for Jupiter's Legacy, but I actually won a little contest to get the first episode a day early before it dropped on Netflix, and that was kind of cool. It was pretty entertaining. I almost did a video on it, but I ended up choosing not to. I wanted to wait for the whole season to drop because I was kind of indifferent watching that first episode. It just got worse after that, in my opinion. Really, no other episode stood up to that first one, and that first one wasn't even that good. So unfortunately, it just was a meh show, and now it got canceled. Oh yeah, and Cobra Kai dropped January 1st last year. It's dropping today. I'm not watching it right now because I am making videos to end the year. So I will be taking the weekend to watch Cobra Kai Season 4 and then give you a review and then a spoiler talk in the first week of 2022. But for right now, we're talking about Cobra Kai Season 3 that dropped January 1st of 2021. Very fun freaking season, dude. I love this show. I had only gotten into it months prior to 2021, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. The lore of Karate Kid, the dynamic between Johnny and Daniel in the show, just being explored more than it ever has in that first movie, but it's within the vein. Like, it makes sense. It's not like this overblown thing, you know? I loved how they did it, and this show, this is a brilliant freaking show, and I'm excited as all hell to get into Season 4, but Season 3 really took it up a notch for me. There was no tournament in there, but they did have a brawl similar to the school fight in Season 2, and man, it's an emotional roller coaster. I just love it, dude. It knows how to tug at the heartstrings at the right moments, and I'm in love with this show, dude. Season 3 really did it for me this year. I kind of put the blame a little bit on Superman and Lois as to why I dipped off the channel for a few months, because I just could not find it in me to enjoy this show. There were so many little things that kept piling up on each other that were bugging me from the show, but overall, it's okay. It's not a terrible garbage show. There was just choices, and the fact that it's a long-ass season with so many episodes, I can feel the CW-ness oozing out of it. Like the Arrow and Flash shows I used to enjoy when I was like a young teenager, but now I can see that, dude, 23 episode seasons is just too much these days. And even with Marvel, 6 episodes is not enough. So if there's a happy medium, it's got to be where Cobra Kai and Mando is at. Mandalorian. It's got 8 episodes for Mandalorian, 10 episodes for Cobra Kai. That's the happy medium for me, and I wish that all shows would just stick there. 6 is just not enough, and 22 2023 is ugh. Okay, moving on to movies now. We started the year with Tom and Jerry. Like, the HBO Max Tom and Jerry flick. I don't know if it opened in theaters as well. It might have, but I wasn't a big fan of it. Like, it's fun, I guess. It brings me back to my childhood a little bit to see Tom and Jerry on screen together, but there was just so much bullcrap with the humans, I tuned out almost immediately. Bob Odenkirk starred in Nobody this year. It was kind of a letdown. It was just a nothing flick. It felt like a C-level John Wick film, and it just didn't live up to the hype. There was really no hype to begin with, but I don't know. I ended up leaving that theater kind of bored and was like, what was that about? And Mortal Kombat, that was kind of a letdown too, I'm not gonna lie. I still had a lot of fun with it. It's very entertaining in certain parts and a lot of parts, but the character of Cole still, I don't know, doesn't really work for me too much, and I feel like they could have done a little bit more with the Mortal Kombat story to start it up and make a new universe out of it. I still think there's enough good stuff in that movie to warrant a new franchise, and they could really make up for some of the bad stuff. I don't know everybody's fan casting, but I think Mike Mizanin, you know, the Miz from WWE, I think would be a good Johnny Cage. That'd be entertaining. I'd be down for that. DC had a few stuff this year, right? Yeah, they had the Suicide Squad, directed by James Gunn, the true Guardians vibe being brought into DC, because, you know, they try to make that 2016 Suicide Squad feel a little bit like Guardians, and it totally royally screwed up that movie. But here, it's the proper thing. That's what they were really going for, and I think it works, dude. There's a lot of ridiculous silliness in here. Some people who are really clamoring for DC to get their stuff together and create a cinematic universe like Marvel aren't gonna really be into this. They're gonna see the Suicide Squad as a step back because it doesn't really tie into anything. They make mention of Batman and Superman, I believe, but at the end of the day, it just feels like this self-contained thing, and there's no problem with that. But, you know, if you're that nerd, yeah, you're gonna want some more. Then the Justice League came out. Zack Snyder's director's cut of Justice League, his 4-hour cut, that came out, and it really blew me away, honestly. It's amongst one of my favorite 2021 films. If there was a top 10, if I reviewed enough movies and saw enough movies to warrant a top 10 best and a top 10 worst, that would definitely be in the top 3, top 2, possibly number 1. I'm being completely honest, guys. This was one of the films, and I don't know if you guys have even noticed in my spoiler talk, I believe, of Zack Snyder's Justice League, but I recall getting just a little bit emotional talking about that movie, because something about it brought me back to that moment right when Flash was reversing time and we realized the stakes of the film, that we realized what was going on. It just hit me on another level, and I've seen videos on YouTube where it hit other people even harder, but it hit me. I don't know how to explain it, but it really did, dude. That was an emotional ride, and I love that movie. I loved having that feeling when watching all 4 hours. It was just such an emotional roller coaster, and I've only seen it twice, because there's only so many times I can take 4 hours out of my day to watch the same movie. It's so memorable to me, though. I will remember those scenes that impacted me forever, dude. Like, that scene of Flash running back in time is so beautifully done. I will remember that until I die. The Matrix Resurrections. So the takeaway of 2021 is that I got to experience The Matrix as a whole for the first time. I watched all the films, and if you haven't checked out my reviews, you can go check those out right now. I reviewed the first, second, third, and the new one, Resurrections. I had a lot more fun with the first two, did not like the third one at all, and this fourth one had potential and it had some good things from the first two films, but at the end of the day, it is a little bit of a disappointment. And yeah, I don't know where you go with the franchise from here. I don't think they're going to be even doing another Matrix for a while, so that's kind of disappointing. Like, Keanu Reeves is really good and he deserves better, but I don't know where you go with Matrix from here. The Resurrections was a bit of a letdown, but overall, I did have a lot of fun getting exposed to Matrix for the first time this year. That's my takeaway with the Matrix this year. It's not the piss poor Resurrections. It's not just the piss poor Resurrections, but it's the piss poor Revolutions, the pretty cool first two films for me. Marvel films now. We had Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, Venom Let There Be Carnage, and Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, Venom 2, I remember liking a little bit more than the first one, though. it's because Carnage was there. I like the look of Carnage. I don't really care who Riot is, but it did kind of take away the specialty of Carnage because we already saw Venom go up against a symbiote, but still pretty fun, dumb fun action. I had a lot of fun with that movie, but it's still, it's not my favorite one of the year. Shang-Chi was a lot of fun. I love that movie. It's very entertaining. Like I said, the action there is very spectacle. It's not raid, gritty fighting, but it's MCU spectacle. It's what you expect, and I loved getting exposed to this new lore of the MCU with the 10 rings and the Great Protector, all that jazz. I loved it all. Black Widow was a bit of a letdown though. I think that was way too late. That movie should have came out years ago, and it's just really hard to get invested in a character that's already dead, and the movie itself is a prequel, so the stakes don't really mean anything. So if you're gonna do that with those odds, so if you're gonna do this movie with those odds, you gotta make a very compelling and a very entertaining movie, and they just really failed at that in my opinion. Now, Eternals, that's a different kind of a Marvel movie. It's kind of an Oscar Marvel movie, and hopefully it gets nominated for some Oscars. That'd be pretty cool. I don't know if Oscar nominations went out yet. They probably did, but that is a very different movie. I appreciate it for breaking that barrier and turning it into something else more than just this comic book film, because it has a vibe of this grander film, you know? I really liked what they did in there, and Spider-Man No Way Home was just on another level, dude. I just put out my spoiler talk for Spider-Man No Way Home, so go check that video out right now. But this was a lot of fun, dude. This movie really is fan service, but it's fan service done right, and you will walk into this film. I personally think you all can walk into this movie and watch it and not feel like they're throwing nerdy stuff in your face for the sake of it. It's all got purpose, it's all got a reason, and it's done in good taste. So go watch it. It's like probably my favorite fan experience in the movie theaters in years. I loved the fan reactions. Even the second time, I just rewatched it in theaters like 2 weeks after it came out, and the fan reactions were still very loud and still very positive, and everyone popped for all the surprises. Now, I probably did miss a few movies that I reviewed on the channel, but I talked about what I want to talk about in my takeaways from 2021. This was an interesting year, you know, this is the second year in the vid era, so it got pretty strong for movies though. We had to kick it up a notch and give back to the movies. There was a lot of stuff delayed in 2022 and a lot of things in 2022 that were delayed into 2023. So that's gonna heavily impact the 2022 most anticipated list that we do have coming out tomorrow. Okay, so a quick update on the most anticipated 2022 list. I just finished recording it, but I had an issue. Forgot to turn the mic on. So I will have to re-record it on Monday, give it out to you either Monday or Tuesday. So be on the lookout for it. It's still coming, guys. There's a lot of content coming to the channel, and as I always say, you might want to stick around because there is more to come.